Begin Self-Publishing, episode number 92, The Fundamentals of Facebook Ads with Andrea Vahl.
Interested in self-publishing but don't know where to start? Want to get your book onto Amazon? Want to hold your paperback book in your hands? Learn how on the Begin Self-Publishing podcast with your host, Tim Lewis.
In this interview, I talked to Andrea Vahl, who is an expert on Facebook, about Facebook advertising. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, it was actually a very short interview, but I think we did a decent job at least giving an introduction to the fundamentals of Facebook advertising. It's actually a much bigger topic than maybe you can cover in one show, so I'll probably look for some more experts and other people to cover particular aspects of it later on. Facebook in itself is a massive topic, and even something as simple as you would think advertising, there are many, many facets and things that are available for people, especially as they keep developing new advert types and new ways of targeting all the time. So now over to the interview. Hi, Andrea, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim. I appreciate it.
Okay, today we're talking about Facebook advertising in general. Obviously, you're a Facebook expert, but what are the advantages to somebody advertising on Facebook?
Well, one of the biggest things is that because Facebook's reach is decreasing lately, a lot of people had set up Facebook pages and they are getting frustrated because the organic reach is going away. But I actually don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that what Facebook advertising can do for us is to really pinpoint our specific potential customer with keywords and reach them very exactly, your ads and your offers. So I think that it's actually a really exciting thing to be able to connect with people where they're hanging out, make sure that your potential customer is the one that you're really trying to reach, and then hopefully engaging them with your ad and bringing them over into your community. And one of the things that works best with Facebook is really using it as a list builder and traffic generators. So getting people over to your list and then getting them over to your website so that they can learn more about you and get connected to you a little bit more.
Okay. So from my experience with Facebook advertising, there's obviously the Facebook advertising manager and then there's a power editor, but there's also boosting posts.
Mm-hmm.
Why should people use the advertising framework rather than just boosting posts?
Yeah, boosted posts are obviously the easiest way because they're sitting right there. It just says, want to reach more people? Boost your post. And Facebook is trying to get us to spend our money here. And part of their business model, right, to make sure that their revenues are growing. But a boosted post is optimized specifically to get engagement on that post rather than maybe drive traffic. So it's showing your ad to people who are more likely to click like on the post or comment on the post or maybe share the post, not necessarily the people who are going to click over to your website or do something a little bit more. So it's often not getting as cheap of a website click as you could get if that's your true goal. So you always want to try and optimize your ads around that true goal, which is if it's getting conversions, you want to use the Facebook pixel and track your conversions and optimize your ad around conversions. Or if you really want website traffic, you're going to try and optimize your ad around getting website clicks. And it may not look quite as exciting as other ads that have a lot of likes on them, but you're actually possibly driving traffic at a cheaper rate. Now, that's not always true. I've seen some cases recently where actually the boosted post was doing better in terms of cost per website click. But that's why you really want to dive into your ads manager area and look at your reports and see what type of ad and test which type of ad is going to drive the cheapest cost per click or cheapest conversion for you and get your ad reports set up correctly.
Okay, so it's been a little while since I've used Facebook advertising. You can advertise just existing posts, can't you? Or you can create like a brand, what they call a dark post, where it's not shown to anybody apart from the advertising market.
Yeah, so dark posts used to be a little bit more common of a term. It used to be kind of a dark post looked a little differently than a website click ad could. But they've actually since expanded the way a website click ad can look. And so it actually can look exactly like a regular post now. So you're really better off with kind of, if you're trying to get traffic, optimizing around traffic, and if you're trying to get something like conversions, making sure you've got everything set up right. But yeah, there's different ways. When you go in there, it can be a little overwhelming when you go into the ads manager area to say, okay, what is my goal here? They've got a lot of choices. And so it can be a little scary, but really just think about what you're really trying to do and choose the option that fits with what you're trying to do.
So from memory, those options are basically website traffic, which is people visiting your website, conversions where you've added a little bit of code on your website to say when somebody's signed up to your email list or sold something.
Yep.
And there's probably a few others I've forgotten as well.
What is kind of challenging is that they're always testing new things. Facebook's always trying to optimize what things are available for people and based on their needs. So now there are also ads like brand awareness or reach or, engagement, which includes that kind of page post engagement or getting likes or things like that to your page. Or there's also lead generation or store visits. So sometimes looks like a lot of choices, but usually I'm telling people most often you're sending people to your website or you're trying to get a conversion somehow, either just with conversion that happens on your website. Lead generation ad is a little bit different where it's all captured within Facebook and it kind of captures the email information and you get a downloadable file rather than sending someone off Facebook. So there's a couple of different options in that space, but if you're just trying to send traffic to your website, I would stick with the traffic one for now and make sure that one's working for you in terms of the best cost per click.
Okay, well, I think you mentioned this in passing a second ago, but obviously there's a concept called retargeting on Facebook, and there's also this Facebook pixel, which can be used for helping retargeting and also for that conversion thing. Can you talk a little bit about what the Facebook pixel is and how that retargeting works?
Yeah, so the Facebook pixel is just essentially a little bit of code. You put it on your website. You can do some things with it so that you're tracking when someone's buying something or when someone's opting into your email list, or if they're doing other activities that you want to track after they get to your website, you can kind of set that up. It's just this little bit of code you put on your website, and it essentially has two jobs. One is making sure that it's capturing and kind of seeing all the traffic that's coming to your website. And the other one is also tracking the conversions, and you have to kind of set that up to tell it what the conversion looks like. And the retargeting is really kind of taking that traffic that comes to your website, and you are essentially then capturing that in a way. So say someone comes to sign up for your newsletter or something like that, and they don't get a chance to, or they're like, oh, I don't want to do that right now. With the Facebook pixel, you've already kind of essentially captured that visitor into a group that you can then send an ad to later. And you could say, hey, I want to send an ad to all the people who came to my website but didn't opt in, or all the people who came to my website and didn't buy. I'm going to send them an ad to make sure that maybe if they just didn't have a chance to do it, or if they were thinking about it and wanted to go think about something else, I can send an ad to that group of people and reconnect with them. And the really cool thing about that is that you don't have to spend a lot of money to reach that very warm audience of yours, that audience that is familiar with you, that have experienced a little bit about you with your website, and you're reconnecting with them. And those are the ones who are more likely to convert then into a sale. And so you can really save a lot of money that way. But you just have to make sure that your Facebook pixel is set up, and then you've got the audiences set up and the conversions set up the way you need to have them so that you can do all that fancy stuff on the back end.
There's a minimum size, isn't there, I think, before you can build one of these audiences in terms of how many people are needed to be in it.
Yeah, so there's 1,000 people would be the minimum. A lot of them, sometimes the audience size could be 20 people, but you can't advertise to a group that's smaller than 1,000. So you can build several custom audiences and kind of put them all together, and then you can advertise to that group. Or your audience builds from the moment you install that pixel. So that's why it's important to get the pixel in as quickly as possible so that you can start building your audience that you can retarget to.
Okay. Another feature that I'm going to tell you to talk about. I am aware that people can create audiences from email lists as well as from these websites. How does that work?
Yeah, so that's another form of retargeting. So usually when I talk about retargeting, you're really retargeting that warm audience of yours. So you can target an ad to only your fans. You could target an ad to only your website visitors or visitors of certain pages of your website. You can also retarget your ad to people who have signed up for your email list. So all you do is upload those emails that you have from your email list, and you have to make sure that you have permission to market to them. That's a list that you've gathered. It's not something you've scraped or not something that you've purchased. It is truly one that you have built, and then you upload that list to Facebook, and then you say, I want to send an ad to just those email subscribers. So that's a great way to reach your warm audience as well. And now they have a couple of really cool new features that are brand new. Well, or video retargeting isn't quite brand new, but you can also build an audience of people who have watched your videos on Facebook. So that's another form of retargeting. You can reconnect with those people, and they're going to be a little more familiar with you because they've maybe seen you talking, and you can send an ad just to those people. And brand new, still rolling out, is engagement retargeting. So you can now retarget an ad to anyone who's ever interacted with your page. They've maybe clicked like on a post, they've maybe come to your page, they've commented, done something interactive with your page. And that's kind of an exciting new thing because that actually is a big game changer for people who might have boosted posts and gotten engagement, but maybe not connected to those people where they became a fan or something like that. Now you can reconnect with that warm audience and hopefully seen you. They've connected you with you in some way on Facebook before, and you can retarget that group.
This is obviously Begin Self-Publishing, so the primary audience of this podcast are people self-publishing books.
Right.
And I mean, I'm not meaning to stereotype my listeners because I don't really necessarily know if this is true, but for lots of authors, they're generally on a low budget. So if you had, say, just $200 to invest in Facebook advertising for a book, what would you spend it on?
So I have run ads for a lot of different authors, and it's very challenging to be cash positive, to have positive ROI for books because they generally have a lower price point. You know, even if your book is running it a little bit higher, $10 or euros, whatever, wherever you might be, you know, even if it is a higher price point, sometimes it doesn't necessarily get you positive ROI from that. So with authors, I think it's more important to get people connected to you and to your page, to your website, rather than sending them straight to Amazon. Because on Amazon, you're getting a website click and you aren't necessarily capturing that in any way. You can't put your pixel on Amazon's site, of course. So if you're sending them to your website, you're capturing that group in a little way. And the challenge is because if you send them to your website where you might have a little more information about your book and then they have to click over to buy, that's a couple of clicks, but at least allows you to capture your audience who was interested enough in your book. And maybe it's about giving away a couple of free chapters. So, or a chapter or something like that, something that's more of a list builder. And this can depend on if you're planning on writing more books in that same genre. They might be interested in signing up to find out more about a series of books, perhaps, and that can be a good strategy. So really, you know, if you had $200 to invest, I would probably spend at least half of it sending people to your website. And then I would spend, if you don't know which demographic is performing well for you, then I might take out some of that and do some testing. So maybe we'll take out, say, $50 to test a couple of different demographics and see which one responds better. And then I would spend the other part of the budget on just sending them over to Amazon and watching your back end sales and seeing if you're correlating a bump with the traffic you're sending over there. So I would test these different demographics on different days so that you can say, okay, this demographic actually seemed to correlate to a bump in sales for me. You're not going to be able to track exactly how many sales came directly from the ad, but you can kind of watch and gauge, and then you're going to know more about the best demographic who will convert a little bit better for you. So yeah, I would spend at least half of it sending people to your website, either as a list builder or maybe to more information about the book where they can then click over to Amazon to buy it, and then spend some of it just on testing and some of it sending people straight to the Amazon page or wherever the checkout is.
Okay. We haven't really talked about targeting. I mean, obviously there's quite a considerable number of targeting options on Facebook ads. Can you basically just quickly take us through what's available in terms of targeting on Facebook ads?
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting ways to target your ads. So you can target based on a category. So like say you wrote about romance or mystery or something like that. Those categories will be quite large. And so you could test those out. Or if there is an author in your genre who is very well known and who has a large following on Facebook, you can target the fans of that person. So say you wrote about fantasy and you wanted to target the fans of J.K. Rowling, you could do that. If you wrote about romance, you could target Danielle Steele or Joan Collins or something like that, someone who is very correlated with your genre, who might be the type of person who would be interested in your book. And you could even say, this book is perfect for fans of Harry Potter, so that it's catching their eye because you already know that they're a fan of J.K. Rowling or Harry Potter, and you could target them. But you can also target by, if you write books about nonfiction books where you're targeting based on maybe small business owners who need to know about your book, you could target by job title, you could target by income level, you can get very, very specific, even if they own a home or rent a home, say you knew that your audience was the type who would be homeowners or something like that. You can target really, really granularly with Facebook ads, and it's very powerful.
Okay. So we've talked about the targeting, we've talked about conversions and retargeting. What about actually, what sort of things should people think about putting in the actual ads? Should they have graphics and how does that work?
Yeah, so there's lots of different types of ways you can design an ad these days, and it's kind of fun, but also a little bit overwhelming because there are all different types of media. You can have videos, you can have slideshow videos, you can have carousel ads, which are multiple images, or you can split test different images or have a single image. So there's lots of ways to design your ad. I really have typically found that often the single image does best. I think that if it's a video ad, sometimes people get caught up in watching the video. If it's a carousel ad, they might be kind of clicking around a little bit and not actually doing the thing you want them to do. So I often find that a single image works best, which is great news for people who just want to try one thing. But you definitely want to optimize your image so that it is 1200 pixels by 628 pixels. So it's kind of got that 1.91 to 1 ratio is the official ratio there. So you can have different sizes if it still fits in that ratio, but that's going to be the optimum size so that nothing gets cut off and things like that. A lot of times what I see authors do is they'll just use their Amazon link and it'll cut off their book image so it doesn't look very good. So you want to have that ad image created by you so that you've got a little bit of text in there that maybe says something exciting about the book with your book image, and covers are not supposed to count in terms of the text. Facebook kind of lifted their text ban, but they still install ads that have too much text in them. Or you can have something that's a little bit more natural. Maybe it would be like a picture that would be from a scene in the book, perhaps. Maybe you find a good stock photo that kind of represents something that might be happening in the book, and you put that on there with no text, and it's a way to have someone make the story real a little bit, and it looks a little bit more like a regular post if it's just an image. So it's important to test the different images, but I definitely find that a single image ad often does the best in terms of cost per click and cost per conversion.
Yeah, and you can see all those figures on the actual advertising framework, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
You can see how the actual ads perform.
Yeah, exactly. You just dive into the reports and compare which one is doing better for you and make sure you're comparing the right things like cost per website click and things like that. And you can really dive into all the stats and see which ad, and then you just stop the underperformers and keep running the one that's working best for you.
Well, I think we've covered quite a complicated area in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
How can people find out about you and the things that you do?
Yeah, just come over to my website. It's AndreaVahl.com, AndreaVahl.com. And I've got some free videos over there that you can kind of learn about Facebook ads. And I also have a whole course on Facebook ads as well that is really good if you need to dive in and learn a little bit more.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for being on the show today, Andrea.
Great. Thanks, Tim.
So continuing my irregular trend of having outros as well as intros to the podcast, I'm going to be away for the next few weeks at various conferences. So for next week's show, I'm going to just do an audio version of an interview that I've done on behalf of the Alliance of Independent Authors with James Scott Bell. So that will basically be just an intro followed by the audio of that interview. I'm not sure yet whether it will be an official episode or whether it will be like 92A, something along those lines. After that, I'll probably do a brief solo show for the next week, and then we'll go back to doing interviews afterwards. If you hadn't had a chance to look at the Alliance of Independent Author Fringe website, then it's certainly worth a look because they do basically a whole day's worth of video training with various experts in the independent authors field, either interviewing or being interviewed or giving solo video training, and it's all completely free. I'll put a link to where you can find the Alliance of Independent Authors Indie Fringe in the show notes for this episode, and also, of course, for next week's show, which will actually be after the live event, though, of course, you can access the videos anytime afterwards. So speak to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please stop by iTunes and rate and leave a review. This helps make the show more visible. For free resources, show notes, and other helpful content, join the community at beginselfpublishing.com.